In Washington, they have outlined what security guarantees for Ukraine would look like, and they sound encouraging. Ukraine has received an offer from Washington that they say can't be refused. As American media are reporting today, platinum security guarantees are on the table. Secret documents developed by the United States and Europe provide for Ukraine to give up joining NATO, but in return, they're offering us something more serious than just concerns. We're talking about Tomahawk missiles with a range of 1,000 kilometers and a security agreement that will go through the United States Congress. It sounds nice. Zelensky calls it a NATO Article 5 equivalent, but experts unexpectedly warn it's a trap. Why is Trump willing to give weapons but not willing to send soldiers as part of security guarantees? And how could dictator Putin use these guarantees against Ukraine? Let's discuss all of this together. My name is Alexei Pechi. Let's talk about this topic together. But before we start, I ask you to subscribe to this channel, give it a like, and leave any comment under this video. This really helps a lot in promoting the episodes on YouTube, and subscribe to my Telegram channel Pechi News. The link is in the description of this video. There we publish breaking news as it comes in. To understand the current negotiation process, we need to go back to early 2025. February 28th, Oval Office, a tough, heated conversation between Zelensky, Trump, and Vance. At that point, Kyiv-Washington relations hit rock bottom. That's when Europe realizes America is unreliable. In March 2025, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer and French President Emmanuel Macron put together this very coalition of the willing. 34 countries are ready to support Ukraine, even if Trump, as they say, leaves the chat. Macron even vowed to send troops right after the ceasefire. Let's be honest, without logistics and support from the United States, it will be hard for Europe to implement this. Now, even in Europe, they admit Washington offers the true path to peace. Without its support, the European Union won't even be able to deploy those forces they want to send to Ukraine, because, for example, all intelligence is tied to the Americans, as is the command of NATO forces. By late 2025, it was clear that Donald Trump still held the key to peace or a truce. Who can truly pressure Putin if he wants to? But Ukraine, in this situation, demands real, genuine security guarantees. So what are the United States of America offering? Insiders from the New York Times report about 2 secret documents. The United States is offering Ukraine security guarantees that they claim are platinum level, saying these aren't just gold, these are platinum security guarantees. The main condition is simply to legally give up joining NATO, but what do they get in return? First, you might ask about the legal force. Zelensky learned from the Budapest Memorandum. He knows a signed paper from the United States president means little if the next one cancels it. Well, for example, Trump canceled Obama's deal with Iran because the nuclear deal was just signed by the president. Then Trump comes in and says, we're canceling everything. We're talking about an agreement that will be ratified by the Senate and the House of Representatives. This will essentially put Ukraine on the same level as Japan and South Korea. This is the United States law, not just Trump's will, and it's much harder to repeal. Secondly, and this is sensational, Tomahawk missiles, we've come back to them again. Experts confirm there is hope that the guarantees will include the provision of Tomahawk cruise missiles with a range of 1,000 kilometers. Previously, only 4 of the closest United States allies received such weapons. What is 1,000 kilometers? That's enough to get to Moscow. These are military factories beyond the Urals. That's a base for strategic aviation in Russia. This is the very language of force that Vladimir Putin understands, meaning the logic of the Americans. We won't fight for you, but we'll give you a club that you can use to smash the Kremlin if it tries something again. But unfortunately, don't rush to celebrate victory. There's a catch. Volodymyr Zelensky wants these guarantees to be similar to Article 5 of the NATO Charter. An attack on one means an attack on all, but Trump, the sly fox, even last summer while heading to the summit in The Hague, he said, quote, there are numerous interpretations of Article 5, and he's right, because Article 5 was written in 1949 in such a way that the United States would not be automatically obligated to go to war. It obligates to provide assistance, but it doesn't specify what kind of assistance. Therefore, it's doubtful that the United States will decide to provide a guarantee that would force them to directly intervene with troops in Ukraine. Moreover, the United States warned Kyiv that the offer won't remain valid forever, and that's already an ultimatum. Take it now or later, not even this will be available. But the most dangerous trap of such guarantees lies in the fact that Russia is also given a say in these guarantees. As political rights, the reliability of the guarantees depends on how Putin interprets them. If Putin sees that there is no political will from the United States behind the tomahawks to push the button, he might risk it again. On the other hand, as long as the United States is conducting bilateral negotiations with the Russians, alongside European and Ukrainian discussions, Putin's position will also be heard by the Americans, whether anyone likes it or not, political rights. And Russia is seeking a much broader agreement with the United States on European security, as evidenced by its initial 28-point peace plan. Since Putin hasn't made any concessions on his maximalist demands, it's still unclear what Russia is willing to accept. Let me also remind you that earlier, NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte stated that the main goal of security guarantees for Ukraine is to prevent renewed aggression from Russia after a ceasefire or a peace agreement is reached. Rutte also added that the security system for Ukraine should consist of three elements: a strong Ukrainian armed force, European security guarantees, and support from the United States. As a result, we have a paradoxical situation. We are being offered powerful weapons and the status of a special ally, but at the cost of giving up the dream of joining NATO and removing this point from the Constitution. In fact, this is something like the Israeli option. We turn into a military camp packed with American missiles, but we'll have to defend ourselves on our own. These platinum security guarantees are better than nothing, and certainly better than Budapest. But they only work as long as there are people in the White House who are willing to uphold these guarantees. But as soon as someone appears in the White House who, starts saying that Ukraine can't strike Russia with this or that weapon, Putin will immediately become emboldened, and such guarantees will simply stop working. That's why, unfortunately, there are a lot of pitfalls here, and I understand how difficult it is for the Ukrainian negotiating team to squeeze the maximum out of what is even possible today. I'll leave it at that. Share your opinions and conclusions in the comments below, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and don't forget to like. Friends, if you found this episode interesting and helpful, you can support this YouTube channel with your donation or a paid subscription using the links and details provided. The video description says, support the channel Alexei Pechi. Choose any format you prefer. I appreciate any support. That's all for now. Take care. Goodbye, everyone.